A little over a year ago, I seemed to be living a very normal and healthy life to other people around me. Really, it was not true. My life was far from healthy and far from what it seemed to be. I struggled daily with tasks that were supposed to be simple, and we didn't know why. We had no answers why. I'm 30 years old. At the time I was 29, and it just didn't make sense. I went to work every day. I was a teacher. I'm a mother of 2 children, and I was very active. I've been active my whole life. I was a runner, and I ran marathons. And people thought I was very healthy. Really, what they didn't know was that underneath my skin, I was completely falling apart. I was far from healthy. People had no idea how sick I actually was. I had something called an invisible illness because I didn't look sick. When you look at me, nobody has any idea of exactly how sick I really am. You see people like me probably every day who are very sick, and you would never know it from looking at them. The invisible illness I suffer from is called Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome is a genetic disorder, and it affects your collagen production. Your collagen is what's needed to give the strength and elasticity to your connective tissue. So my connective tissue does not work at all. Connective tissue is all over your body. So all of the places that you have connective tissue, mine does not work, and it completely fails. The places like your joints, your ligaments, organs, it's all over. Blood vessels, so we have all kinds of problems. Skin, it affects everything in your body. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome used to be thought to be rare. It actually just a few years ago was thought to be 1 in 15,000, and now it's at 1 in 5,000, except that doctors who screen for it regularly actually think that it's a lot more frequent than that. It's just commonly misdiagnosed because doctors used to think that if you had somebody like this, you would know right away. They would stand out. But we don't stand out. We seem to be very normal. And so there's a lot of misunderstandings that go along with EDS. Some of the problems that Ehlers-Danlos syndrome causes is chronic pain. So every joint that you can think of, we pretty much end up with pain in it. We have dislocations and subluxations all of the time. It's a common thing for us. I actually just used to think I just popped a lot, and I had learned to wiggle myself back into place. I didn't know that popping was dislocating. I had no idea about that because it's been part of my daily life since I've been a kid. We have skin abnormalities. Our skin stretches very far, and I will show you that in a little bit. We have poor healing, chronic fatigue, muscle spasms throughout our body, and the list could really go on and on and on and on. EDS, without knowledge of it and without proper treatment, can be life-threatening. One of the things that it can cause is an aorta rupture, and so we need heart tests frequently. Even with treatment, it can be disabling, which it has disabled me quite a bit in the last year. To be diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, they check extensive scan of your body, and you need to go to a specialist. But one of the things that they look for is hypermobility, and so I'm going to show you some of the things, and is it okay if I put down the mic for a minute? Okay. Some of the things that they look for are your fingers, my fingers. Sorry if this grosses anybody out, but my fingers will bend way back. It doesn't hurt me at all, which it would hurt the normal people. I was actually very shocked when I found out that people couldn't do that. I had no idea. It was weird. Another thing is that my thumb touches my forearm very easily. I can put my palms onto the floor with my legs straight. very simply, I don't need to practice my flexibility at all. My elbows bend backwards, and I'm hoping that you all can see this, but they bend backwards more than 10 degrees. And my knees do the same thing. The other thing that we have is our skin is very stretchy. So my arm, where if you pinched up your arm, it would not pull way up like mine. Mine pulls very far up, and so does my face, which is fun for my kids because I can make funny faces. So my skin will just stretch way out on my face. Except when you go into doctor's appointments, they don't say to you, well, let me see you stretch your skin. It's not something they look for, and I didn't know it was strange. Also, our ears are very flimsy, and they can be folded very, very easily because of the collagen, how loose it is in our ears. We get gray tissue over our eyes, and we have a high, narrow palate in our mouth, which causes teeth overcrowding. Another thing that they look for is just all over the way your body heals and the way your scars look, because we end up with some pretty wicked looking scars. After you're diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, it is a complete lifestyle change. There's no cure for it, unfortunately. So it's a complete change of the way you have known living. One of the things that they need to do is you need constant monitoring. We're at doctor's appointments constantly. I had 3 doctor's appointments just last week and 2 this week, so it's just never ending. The other thing is bracing, and I'm gonna put the mic down for another minute. The other thing is bracing, and these are actually not rings. I am not this stylish. These are splints. And so they keep my joints from popping in and out because of how my hands pop in and out. My pinky goes back, so this helps my pinky to not go back. I actually just lost this one. And my fingertips go backwards. So this holds my fingertips on so that they're not, everything will bend backwards and pop out of place without my rings. I also have braces for my neck, my back, and my ankles. And as things start to go, what they do is they just piece you back together with braces. People often need surgeries, which I've had 13 at this point, and I don't see really an end in my future. So surgeries is one of the things that they do to help you to get put back together. A lot of people need walking assistance, so they'll need canes or a walker, or even have to use a wheelchair. We need to go through genetic counseling for ways to manage our pain better and the best possible way to live our life so that we can have the best quality of life and make constant choices throughout our day. I don't wake up with an endless supply of energy, and I don't wake up with an endless supply of my body to give. So if I decide to cut an apple, I may end up paying for it later. And so I really have to prioritize what I do throughout the day, and that doesn't ever end. One of the things that I miss more than anything in the world is picking up my kids. My kids are 4 and 3, and I can't hold them. I haven't held my son since November, 3 surgeries ago, and that's very difficult as a mom. It's something that I really, really miss, and I've actually only held them 3 times in the last year, but it's something that we have to adapt to, and it's the change that needs to be made, and we just roll with it. The other thing is that we have to always be aware of our movements. Putting on a shoe is not easy for us. So if I put on a shoe and I'm not paying attention, my hand pops out right away and I'll pop a joint. If I drop something behind a dresser and I go to pick it up and I stretch my arm out too far, it pops out of place. So there is not a time of the day when I can forget that I have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. It's constant throughout the day that I have to think about my movements that I make. I was actually just only diagnosed a little over a year ago, despite that I've been showing signs my whole life. After I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, things in my life just all of a sudden made sense. My mom had always insisted there was something different about me. Something didn't seem right. She hunted for doctors all over the place, and nobody could figure out what was going on with me. And they assured my mom that I was fine. They told her she's fine. She's just little and she beats up her body. And my mom insisted there was something more going on. Growing up, I was always very flexible. I used to pretzel myself and rock back and forth and think it was fun. And my sister could do the same thing, so we had no idea we were doing damage to our body. We didn't know. We just thought we were flexible. I was also injury prone. I was constantly injured. I mean, I remember being in physical therapy through elementary school, and I was constantly injured, and the doctors had told my mom it was because I was overusing my body. I couldn't sit still. So they told me I was overusing my body. I was very active in sports. I played everything, and I was very, very active in softball. Softball was my thing. And they told me that I needed to take it easy on my body. It was that I was too small and my body couldn't handle it. I frequently needed surgeries to correct what was going on in all of my injuries. Before I was 20 years old, I had 6 surgeries. I played softball in college, and I ended up getting hurt, and that was the end of my career. At the time, they diagnosed me with loose shoulders, and they told me I needed surgery to correct my shoulders. The loose shoulders was a sign now that we see. The loose shoulders, they could pop them in and out, and they said it wasn't normal, so they tried to tighten them. My pain didn't go away. I ended up with chronic upper body pain, and it was pretty bad. It was very difficult for me, but I knew that I needed to learn to deal with it until somebody could figure out more what was going on. That was the beginning of my battle with doctors and my struggle with doctors, and that was 11 years ago. I started to do the doctor shuffle, where we just went from one doctor to another doctor to another doctor. And quite a few doctors said, there's something, we just don't know what it is. And we started and would move me on to somebody else. I actually used to joke with my husband and say, when I came home from a doctor's appointment, I would say, I was broken up with again, because I used to say doctors broke up with me. I knew I had to move on, and so I got married. I started a family. I had 2 kids, and I got a job as a teacher. 3 years ago, my body had it. It completely started to fall apart. I knew that whatever was going on was not normal, and if I didn't figure out what it was, then my kids would not have a mom. I went to bed every night just praying for one more day and hoping that there was a doctor that would help me, because I just did not believe, I knew that there was something terrible happening in my body. I had pain throughout every joint in my body. I had chronic headaches. I had times where I couldn't see right, and there was just something wrong. I spent 2 years hunting aggressively for doctors. I went to doctor's appointments almost every week and went for testing almost every week, and nobody could find anything. And finally, I had a doctor who sat down with me and listened to my whole story and listened to my whole life. And the first thing he said to me was, "How flexible are you?" And my thought was, give me a break. I don't have all of these problems because I'm flexible. But apparently, I did not know that was a sign of what was going on in my body. And he hit it right away. He said, "You have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome." The diagnosis to me was so bittersweet. At first, I was so relieved. I thought, oh, finally, I know what it is. I know what's going on. Except that I had no idea that it wouldn't be cured. And I knew I was sick, but I hoped that somebody would be able to find out and fix it. It couldn't be fixed. And I had no idea that my life would just never be the same again. Things that I enjoyed, things that I loved doing, I would never be able to do again. It felt like my identity was stolen. Everything that made me, me was gone. And so it was very difficult for me. After I was diagnosed, I found out that there was a lot of other things that go along with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, and they had to test me for them. I was tested for, I had a craniocervical instability, which means that when your joints don't work in your neck and in your head, and they are not being held together right, you turn into a bobblehead. And I had been a bobblehead for 29 years, which had kinked my brainstem. Also, my cervical vertebrae had slipped because there was no connective tissue that was working right, that was holding it together. So my C2 was hitting up into my brainstem. Along with that, there was the joints that and the ligaments that hold your cerebellum in were not working in mine, and so my cerebellum was hanging down, and as I was bobbling, it was crushing into my cerebellum. So my brain was pretty much taking it from two angles, and I ended up having to have a pretty serious surgery. The cerebellum hanging down is called the Chiari malformation, and I ended up needing a surgery where they had to do a craniectomy. They had to reposition my head and unkink my brainstem, put my C2 vertebrae back into place, and fuse me. They took 2 ribs out of my back and used them to hold up my cranium and fuse me to C3. And that would stop me from being a bobblehead. That wasn't the end. There was more. I also had a tethered spinal cord. For some reason, tethered spinal cords go along with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. And my spinal cord was tethered, so I needed a surgery in July that untethered my spinal cord. And I also had hydrocephalus, which goes along with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome as well, and it's when you have too much water in your brain. So I ended up needing a shunt in November, and then I needed another shunt repair in February, and in March I found out I needed a surgery for thoracic outlet syndrome, which is when the nerves in your brachial plexus are being compressed. Because of all of these joints moving around, it ends up that it compresses your nerves and it sends bad impulses to your muscles. So they had to remove a rib and my scalene muscle. It's been quite a year for my family, to say the least. With 2 kids at home, they've had to watch me in some unfortunate circumstances, and I've had to rely on others to help me through my life. We've had amazing support, and so many people step up to help us through, and I don't know what we would have done without it. And I have an amazing husband who took on the role of a mom and a husband and a caretaker, and I don't know what we would have done without that. All of the pain that I had faced in the past year did not compare to the pain that I faced when I found out that I had a 50% chance of passing Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome to both of my kids. My youngest has not been tested yet, but my oldest has, and he's tested positive. He's already started to show quite a bit of signs, and he has a lot of pain, and he's only 4 years old. So it's very difficult to watch. At first, we were a little devastated. Our first reaction was, well, he's not going to be able to play sports he already shows interest in, and he's not going to be able to have the dreams that he dreams of, these playing football and playing baseball, and we're going to have to tell him no, except that changed pretty fast. That's the little things that he's going to have to deal with. Mm-hmm. There's a lot bigger things that he's going to have to deal with, and he's going to have quite a battle, and a battle with pain, and he's already started on it. We do feel very thankful, though, that we know, because there are a lot of parents that don't know. So we're one of the lucky parents that we're able to know this so early. So far, what we've seen in him, he has what he was diagnosed with as growing pains. Now we know they're not exactly growing pains. He has pains in all of his joints. Every joint hurts. Something as simple as holding a fork and eating, he'll complain that his elbow hurts. Walking up the steps, he grunts and groans because his knees hurt walking up the steps. His ankles roll, and he's flat-footed, and his knees have started to grow inwards. So right now he's started with braces for his ankles, and they lift like an orthotic on his foot, so they help him to not be flat-footed, which will help him in the future, because once your feet are messed up, once your knees are messed up, it throws off your whole alignment of your body. So we're lucky that we know that. And just recently, we've found out that that's not all he has. He's been hiding some of the pain that some other pain that he has. We found out he has headaches. He just got a test back, and unfortunately, he also has a kinked brainstem, and so he's going to end up needing a fusion. And he also has hydrocephalus, so he's going to end up needing a brain shunt. And we just found that out, and so that was a little difficult for us to swallow, but we can't help but think, thank goodness that we know, and we know to test for these things so that we can stop all of the damage that I did, nerve damage that's it can't be fixed, it's irreversible. So we're going to be able to stop those things from happening in him. And there are other Bradens out there. There are 1 million kids out there that probably have this that will never know, because it's so commonly misdiagnosed. And they're going to be diagnosed with the same thing. They're going to be diagnosed with growing pains like Braden was. We can hear his joints popping in and out of place. And we see him already at 4 years old ignoring it and shaking his hand and moving it back and telling us he's fine. And we know what's happening because I see it and I do it. So I know what he's doing. But there are parents that if they don't know, that their poor children are going to end up and do a lot of unnecessary damage to their body. Early diagnosis is so, so crucial for kids. It is so important, because a lot of the damage, although it may be a battle at the time and they may end up needing surgeries or bracing and they may end up looking different, it's going to stop a lot of the progression of Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. So it is really important that we can attack it when they're at a young age. Some of the things that people should be looking for, that parents can look for in their kids, is easy bruising. My youngest son, he hasn't been diagnosed yet, but we have a pretty good feeling he has it. He constantly has bruises on his legs, and easy bruising is a sign of it. Stomach problems is a big sign. When frequent stomach aches, a lot of people say that when they were kids that they used to, if they laid down, they would end up getting very sick to their stomach, and it was because of the kink of the brainstem, because their head wasn't being held upright, and they would end up being very sick to their stomach. Clumsiness, dislocating and popping, and any clicking of the joints that is heard, that's a sign of it in kids. Fine motor problems like holding a pencil is a sign when they're having difficulty with a pencil. Right now we have a special pencil and a special pen for my son that will help him, and will help him with his handwriting. Overcrowding of your teeth is a big sign. And I had to have 2 adult teeth pulled in 2nd grade because I didn't have enough room in my mouth. I also had braces in 2nd grade. What 2nd grader has braces? I mean, it was very rare. So that was a big red flag. Any joint pain, and that's chronic, that doesn't go away and doesn't end, is not growing pains. It's something more. And there was a woman who told me the way her family found out was her daughter was born with gray tissues over her eyes, and the doctors assured her it was fine. It wasn't fine. Gray tissues over your eyes is a sign of Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. She looked it up, and that's how her family found out that they fit everything to a T, and she found out that her whole family had Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. Any numbness in the extremities is a sign, and being very flexible is obviously a sign, and thinking that you're injury prone, there's probably a little more to it than that. So those are things that, as parents or if you know somebody like that, those are things that need to be red flags and that we really need to advocate for. If a doctor says it's not anything more, find another doctor, because there is something more. And I feel bad that for my family, my mom, she's crushed that she knew there was something more. And it's very hard for her to watch that all of this has happened to me when she had an idea from the beginning. But now we know, and now we know to get the message out to other parents, because we want to see our kids have the best quality of life possible. And they're not going to if it's not diagnosed early. Throughout the whole thing, throughout this whole journey, I would have never have dreamt that this is what my life was going to hold for me. But with that being said, I am so thankful, and I think I am so lucky, and I am so blessed. I am so lucky because I know and I can help my kids, and I can make sure they're getting the best care that they possibly can. And I'm so lucky because I've seen so much in the world that others don't get the opportunity to see. I've seen how amazing people can be, how amazing children can be. I've met a few children who have this, and I'm amazed at their strength and how they just roll with it. I feel that although this has hit my family pretty hard, and we've been on a roller coaster ride for the last year of ups and downs, we were able to stay positive because of others. And for that reason, I feel I've been so motivated to change my purpose in life. I feel like this is now my purpose. This is what I need to do. I need to get the word out there, and I need to try and find the families or the children, anybody. If I can get to one person, then I feel like I was successful. And that's what I feel like my purpose is. And I feel like everything that happens, I just need to roll with it and try and stay as positive as possible. And we've learned that we have so much to be grateful for. We take every day for what the day is, what it is. We're happy for the days that the smile and the laughter comes easily. And the days that it doesn't, we're happy that we're surrounded by loving and caring people that are going to help my family through anything. We've been amazed by the support that the community has given us, and people who have just listened to my story one time and have had such a desire to help me. It's unbelievable. There is so much beauty in the world that people don't ever get the chance to see. People ask me all the time if I ever think, why me? And my response is very easy. No, I never think, why me? And it's because it's not about me. It's not just about me. I'm not going through this on my own. It's about all of the strength of the people that are around me and surround me. And I'm blessed with such a support system, a wonderful family, wonderful friends, and a wonderful community. And their strength is what really has pulled my family through and is what has helped us to stay positive. People have gone above and beyond what we could have ever have dreamt to help my family. So I don't think why me at all. I think why not me? We're great for this, and we have so many amazing people to help us. We feel so happy that we've gotten the opportunity to see how wonderful everyone can be, and you guys are included in that. You've listened to my story and you've given me your attention, and I'm really, really thankful for that. So thank you so much for listening to me and being part of the amazing people that I've gotten to see. Thank you. To learn more about Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, please visit www.ednf.org. To help with our fight for Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, please visit our website. You can go to www.firstgiving.com and type in my name, Kristin Means, as your search.